Hello all, welcome to my YouTube channel. In the last video, we have discussed about a use case on a mobile user demographic dataset, where we have done some brainstorming to understand like what is our dataset and what use case we are going to build on that, what is our business problem, and what are the steps required in building the model, right? So in today's video, we are going to talk about very first step in our model building exercise, that is exploratory data analysis. So let's understand an EDA through an analogy. So think like you are a detective. I will take a two persona here. One is a detective and one is a data scientist, right? And we'll try to understand like how a data scientist can be turned out to be a detective when he is doing a EDA, performing a data analysis on his data set. Okay. So basically, what is the job of the detective? What they do? They go on the crime scene, they collect the data, they examine the evidence to understand what happened, and then they identify suspect, right? Same way, data scientist or data analyst uses EDA to collect and examine the data so that they can understand what pattern and relationship is existing, and also they can identify they have any outlier in the data set. So like a detective, they do a careful examination of each piece of the evidence, right? So that same way a data analyst also have to be very careful, and they have to examine each data point, looking for the pattern and the relationship between the features in their data set. Okay. So basically they do very first examination. Second, they may use some tools, right? Detective can use some forensic test on a surveillance footage on a crime scene to gather more data and to be more accurate on his analysis, so that he can uncover a new information, whatever the data he collected, right? Same way, a data analyst uses the tools like statistical analysis and some visualizations tools, for example, just a histogram or a scatter plot, to visualize the data and to uncover new insights from the data. So basically, first they do the examination, then they bring a new insights from the data. So in short, EDA is like a very first step in setting the foundation for the further analysis and exploration. Same way, for a data scientist, EDA, it provides a framework for understanding the data and generating insight that can guide for the subsequent analysis. I hope till now you are able to understand what is an EDA and what is the job of a data scientist. Basically, the key takeaway from this, while performing EDA, you have to think like that you are a detective. You have to investigate, you have to explore, so that you can bring the new information from the data that you have. So in machine learning world, as a data scientist or a machine learning engineer, why while building a model, why very first step is an EDA? Why we do an EDA, right? So basically, we do an EDA to identify any data, because we gather our data from various steps, from various sources, sorry. So we do EDA which can help us to identify the data quality issues, such as there can be missing data, there can be some erroneous data, so that we can take some corrective action, right? Second is like feature selections. There can be various features which could or couldn't be helpful for your model, right? So we have to identify some features or a variable in the data set which are more important in predicting the target variable. Same way, we do an outlier detection. It helps us to do identify any outliers in the data, because if outlier in the data, it can affect your accuracy of the machine learning in the model, right? So by detecting and handling those outlier, model can be more robust. Next is like we find a relationship between the features with the help of the EDA. This can help us in the selection of the right features for the model. Then finally we do the model selections. So EDA can also provide insights into the characteristics of the data, so that it can be used to choose the most appropriate machine learning algorithm for a problem at a hand, right? So suppose for an example, right, you are going to predict age, or you have a one problem statement where you are going to predict an age, and you have a one problem statement where you are going to predict an age group, right? So on basis of that, looking to the what is the data type of that, it is a continuous variable or it is a categorical variable, your target variable, you can think of what machine learning model you have to choose, or what algorithm you have to choose. So EDA help us in those terms. So the key takeaway is like EDA is very essential step in any machine learning project, because it allows us for a better understanding of the data and also help us to improve the accuracy and the reliability of the machine learning model. So let's understand, are there any framework, like Ras, tell me if there are any set of the steps which I can follow while doing EDA. So answer is no, there is no one size fit all framework for the EDA, but there are some common steps which we can do while performing the EDA. So very first step is like data collection. So first we do a data scraping, we obtain the raw data from the various sources. Then we do the data cleaning, where we pre-process the data to remove any missing value, handle the outlier, and deal with any other data quality issues. Then we do the data visualization. We visualize the data using graphs and the charts to get a better understanding of the data. Then we transform the data into the forms that can be used for analysis. Then we identify and select the relevant features that can be used to build the machine learning model. Then we conduct a basic statistical analysis on the data to identify patterns and the relationship between the variables. And then hypothesis testing we can do. We can develop a hypothesis about the data and test them using the statistical model. So basically the goal of hypothesis testing is to determine whether there is a sufficient evidence in the data so that I can reject or fail to reject our null hypothesis. So the final key takeaway is like these are the steps are not necessarily sequential. You have to follow in a sequential manner. You can perform in a different order depending on the project requirement. So the key is like you have to be flexible and use an iterative approach to refine the EDA process so that you can gain more insight from your data. I hope I was able to make you understand what is an EDA by taking an analogy, why we need EDA and what is a framework we have available so that we can perform an EDA in a better way, so that at the end we can build a good model for our machine learning project. So thank you for watching it. In the next video we are going to do a deep dive. This is a theoretical session. In the next video we are going to do a practical session of the same. Thank you.